Story 1, The Terrifying Secret My Best Friend Was Hiding. Kids can say the dumbest shit. Don't get me wrong. I would die for my 5-year-old son, I love him more than I love myself. But that doesn't make his commentary any more meaningful. Any parent who's had to explain why jelly beans can't go in the toaster will comprehend. Every parent who's had to clean melted jelly beans out of the toaster will empathize. So Daddy, there's something scary under the bed had gotten old long before my wife and I loaded Liam into the car to begin the 2-day trip to her parents' house for Thanksgiving. It's your turn, I mumbled to Stacy as I rolled over on the pull-out bed. Last time I had to clean an entire bottle of Gatorade pee, she huffed. That counts for 2. Besides, he called for you. She pushed me to the edge of the uncomfortable bed. Sighing, I stood up and shambled over to the minuscule twin bed on the other side of the room and sat down on the mattress. Liam, do you remember that I need a good night's sleep so I won't crash the car while I'm driving tomorrow? But something's moving under the mattress, he whispered in a voice that was inappropriately dramatic. I rubbed my eyes before trying to focus on Liam's silhouette in the faint moonlight. Matt's one of my best friends from college, and he's being very generous to let us stay in his house. I'm sure he gave us a room without any monsters in it. That usually calms him down. Usually, but not always. This was one of those not always moments. Liam wheezed like he was finishing the final stretch of the Boston Marathon, which meant that I could either check under the bed for potential threats or spend the next 30 minutes mopping up piss. The tapping is coming from beneath my pillow. Check that part of the bed first, he gasped. I'll be honest, that part made my hair stand up just a little as I got to my hands and knees. Okay, Liam, I announced as I lifted the edge of his sheet. I'm sticking my head underneath the bed right now, and... damn, it stank. What was Matt keeping under here? I blinked, struggling to see in a space where the moonlight barely reached. The first thing I recognized was the eye. It stared at me, just inches away from my nose. I really didn't want to move, because that would mean accepting what I was seeing as real. The hand on my wrist forced me into action. Her grip was slimy and gritty, and it left a cold, wet, and copper-smelling residue on my skin. I pulled away and scrambled to my feet, very angry with gravity for confusing me. I'll admit that a tiny, selfish part of my brain contemplated running away from Liam and heading out the door. But I ignored the thought and leapt forward, scooping my son from the bed and turning around. It was enough time for a clammy hand to find my ankle. This time, her grip felt like ice. But I broke away and stumbled to the pull-out bed, crashing onto Stacy as Liam screamed. That was enough to get her from asleep to fully standing in a quarter of a second. Dave, she gasped, what are you? She didn't need to finish. The woman now crawling out from beneath Liam's bed was visible even in the dim moonlight. It was my turn for an inappropriate piss as I realized that she was standing between us and the only door. Still urinating, I grabbed my son in one arm and my wife in the other and ran for the window. We had just enough time to crawl onto the roof before she reached us. The next couple of hours were a blur. I'd like to say that I climbed down from the roof gracefully, but I'm trying to stay as honest as possible. Without our car keys or cell phones, we had to pound on a neighbor's door until they woke up. The police arrived faster than answers did. Matt was taken away in handcuffs, and the woman was taken away in an ambulance. The truth eventually found its way to us. Matt had been kidnapping and torturing people, mostly women, for years. He'd pulled the tongue from the mouth of victim beneath Liam's bed, and she'd actually been begging us for help as she bled to death. She didn't survive. Matt hadn't planned on letting us leave his home with this knowledge. He'd been waiting in the hall, intending to catch us as we ran out. Apparently, capturing people in the moment of panic is the biggest thrill for him. He hadn't counted on us climbing out of the 2-story window. That's the only reason we're alive. He'd already killed 19 people, and another 13 were trapped at various places within his home in various makeshift torture chambers. At first, I'd refused to believe that one of my best friends was capable of what prosecutors claimed. But that was before they showed me his notebook, which documented the grisly details of each murder. At the end of it, 5 pages had been set aside for Stacy, Liam, and me. He was going to make me choose one of them to get tortured first, then force me to watch every second of it. So that was how my Thanksgiving travel plans went awry. I hope yours played out better. I doubt Liam will be able to sleep alone until he's a teenager. To be honest, I don't blame him. He's seen the world for the worst it can be. Kids really do say the dumbest shit. Story 2, Trapped in a Mirror Dimension, a true story. It's currently November 23rd, I lost track of time by the hour a while ago. I got home pretty late after work, and since rent's due soon I decided I wouldn't be shopping for any groceries, and would only eat what I could find. I recovered some raw pasta and a can of marinara sauce and decided I'd eat spaghetti, no meatballs. I poured some water into a pot and turned on the stove, sitting in my couch while waiting for the water to come to a boil. I tried opening my phone, and could only get to the lock screen, not the password area or the face scan area, which was already weird now that I think about it. I shrugged it off, turning on the TV. Static. Before I could think of why any of this was happening, I heard a strange noise coming from outside my door, a sort of scratch and scurry. I walked over to the door, opening it, asking, "Can I help you?" As a reflex. What I saw completely ripped apart my understanding of anything really. How would I explain this in a way anyone would understand? I saw the entrance to my apartment from inside my apartment. It looped back inward. I completely froze, staggering back and falling to the floor, speechless and twitching. After maybe half an hour of contemplation, I mustered up the courage to walk through the loop. Then walked to the other side, then back again. Testing the waters of this area. I walked up to my balcony, trying to open it. Locked. I tried break it open with a stool, nothing. Time was passing regularly outside, but no one can see what's happening through the balcony because I set up a curtain on the outside for creeps. I only saw the outside through glimpses of blasts of wind on the curtain. I thought about a few things, like rationing my food. I shouted for help for a bit, no avail. This entire situation made me feel sick. I walked up to my bathroom door so I could barf into the toilet. Opening the bathroom door, I just saw the inside of my apartment again, from the front. I checked the 2 other doors in the apartment, a closet and the door to my bedroom. Thankfully, I had access to my bedroom as the door hung open. I kept it propped open with a shoe. The closet led to the same front entrance as well. I recovered my laptop from my bedroom. It barely works, some apps don't open and I can't call anyone. I don't even know if the emails I've sent to my friend to try to come pick me up went through. On the small chance it does, I'm deciding to document my experience here. Even if it doesn't send through, it makes me feel less lonely. It's been around an hour since my last entry. I've been experimenting with walking around the loops, and I have a theory. I don't know why, but it feels like tiny things shift around the rooms when I loop. Like things change, and I'm not walking around and around forever. Maybe I'm just in denial. I'll have to text further. Next entry here, the lights seem to have shut off, gave me a heart attack when it happened. I'm scrambling around in the dark for a flashlight, using the monitor as a light source. It's really hard to go to sleep for some reason. It feels like I'm being watched. It's morning now, the lights are back on, it's light outside. Some strange things happened, really strange. I finally found that flashlight, and I was chilling in one spot when I heard knocking on the front door. I was highly skeptical when I heard a voice. It was the voice of a friend of mine, but something didn't seem right about it. It didn't seem human enough. I heard it start shifting, circling around. I realized it was trying to enter through the bathroom door entrance, but if the front door was closed, how would it do that? I wondered, not taking any risks. I ran to the door, slamming it. The knocks grew to pounding as the voice pleaded for me to let it in, growing louder, angrier, till it just stopped. I don't know if it's left, and I'm too afraid to find out. Story 3, the night my face became my worst nightmare. Every night, at exactly 3:33 a.m., the knocking starts. 3 slow knocks, deliberate, as if the person on the other side knows I'm listening, waiting. It's a new routine, one that began the night I spent my first evening in the quaint, unassuming house that was supposed to be my sanctuary. The first time it happened, I figured it was just some neighborhood prank, a way to welcome the new guy to the block. But when I looked through the peephole, expecting to catch a glimpse of retreating figures, I found an empty street bathed in the orange glow of the streetlights. The second night, the knocking came again. Same pattern, same time. This time, a shiver ran down my spine, and a sense of dread filled the pit of my stomach. I flicked on the porch light, hoping to scare off whoever was messing with me. But as I peered outside, I saw no mischievous teens, no shadow of a person. Just my own face staring back at me, smiling in a way that made my skin crawl. It wasn't my reflection. It was another me. I stumbled back, gripping the nearest chair for support. The other me cocked its head, the smile never wavering, and then it was gone as suddenly as it appeared. No sound of footsteps, no sign of movement, just silence and the chilling memory of that smile. By the third night, fear had turned to obsession. I couldn't leave it alone, couldn't let it go. As the clock neared 3:33 a.m., I armed myself with the heaviest thing I had, a baseball bat, and waited. The knocking started, and there I was again, or rather, the thing that looked like me, only off in a way that's hard to describe. "Let me in," it whispered, its voice eerily like mine. "It's cold out here." The words echoed in the empty house, bouncing off the walls, filling the space with a sense of imminent threat. I screamed at it to leave, threatening to call the cops. But it just laughed, that same chilling chuckle, and the night reclaimed its silence. Sleep became a forgotten luxury. I pored over internet forums, flipping through pages of folklore and paranormal encounters, each tale more unnerving than the last. They spoke of bad omens, dark mirrors, copies of oneself signifying turmoil, or worse, death. The fourth night, it wasn't alone. I didn't go to the door, didn't need to. I could hear it, the other me, accompanied by whispers that multiplied, surrounded the house, filled the air. "Let us in. This is our house, too," they chanted, a symphony of my own voice, warped and twisted into something sinister. I never answered the door that night. Instead, I cowered in my bedroom, the whispers creeping under the door, promising a union, emerging, if I'd only sleep. But I couldn't give in, wouldn't give them the satisfaction. When dawn broke, I fled. No belongings, no plan, just a desperate need to escape my own face, my own voice. Now I'm here, miles away, writing this in a dingy motel that charges by the hour, the neon sign outside flickering a lurid red. Every creak of the building, every rustle outside sends a jolt of fear through me. I watch the door like a hawk, jump at the sound of any knock from the neighboring rooms. I wonder what would happen if I had opened the door, if I'd confronted those smiling doppelgangers. But some questions are best left unanswered, especially when the night is dark, and your own face is waiting outside to greet you. Story 4, My Stepmother's Deadly Secret. It wasn't a big wedding, but my dad was happier than I've seen in years. I remember how he placed the ring on Jill's finger, and they both smiled at each other. I wanted to be happy for my dad. I'm sure he was lonely after Mom left, but Jill always seemed different to me. Before the wedding, my dad and I had the talk while playing basketball. He shot the ball for a 3, "She is not ever going to be your mom. No one can replace her, but she's just there to help." I wanted to say something back then, but I just didn't have the words. Now when the minister asked, "Speak now, or forever hold your peace," I was ragging inside. I kept the words inside. I wished now I did speak up. At first Jill was all right. She was trying to play nice. She was librarian and she helped me with a report for school and organized a science project for me. My dad watched from afar and later said, "See kid, it's going to be okay." At school, my friends only liked to talk about gaming. But Alice, my girlfriend, would try to find out about what's going on. "Jake, maybe she just wants to connect, you should let her. What's the worst that could happen?" Alice said. "Maybe you are right. That's why I'd give my liver to you." That was our little code, so I never had to say the four-letter L word. I'd give you my liver, too. The first incident happened a couple days later. I was playing a video game with my friends. I had my headset on, in my gaming chair, about to win a 5-on-5 game. Just then my game was not responding. Man, I'm glitching. I look over to Jill with the unplugged router in her hand. You missed an assignment. I just talked to your teacher. What the hell, you just don't mess with my internet like that. She walked over to me, looked me directly in the eye and said, I'm your stepmother, don't fuck with me. I didn't know what to say, but I was pissed. When Dad got home, I met him at the car before he could get inside. But he had already talked to Jill. Jake, you're failing your classes, and you need to study more. Jill will help you with your classes. Don't you think a little time away from video games would be better for you? Dad, I'm not failing grades. Get outside and get fresh air. God knows how stuffy it is in your room. I thought she got to him. I already lost my dad. At school, my friends made fun of me for being AFK when they were about to win. Alice seemed to understand but didn't have a lot of advice. Look on the bright side. If you get good grades, we can go to the same college. Alice, I'm not failing my classes, besides she's only a librarian, not a genius. Look, come to my birthday party this Saturday and this will be all over. You can show your dad that your grades are okay and things will go back to normal. See, that's why I have no problem donating my liver if I had to. However, I wasn't going to Alice's party. When I got home, Jill was waiting for me. What type of filth do you talk about? I just realized that she went through my DMs in my social media accounts. My dad always respected my privacy. I never even thought about hiding stuff. Besides, I didn't talk about or doing anything different from what my other friends were doing. I watched in horror as she confiscated all my devices. This computer is your homework computer. There are no more games on here until you can improve your grades. I'm not flunking, you stupid bitch. Speaking of which, you are not going to that party with that girl. You can start doing a list of chores. Just wait until your father gets home. Yeah, my first chore will be helping Dad file divorce paperwork. I knew you would be a little shit and try sabotage my marriage already. I try to help you with your classes, and this what I get? Dad came home. Jake, let's go to the basketball court. At the park, we played horse. My dad always wanted me to play sports, especially basketball. But I wasn't interested. I had the height and I could handle the ball okay. I just couldn't make the team, so why bother? My dad made another 3. He always went for his special spot on the floor. He mastered it and it was difficult for me to match that shot. He got the rebound and then asked me directly while handing me the ball. Are you having sex with that girl? I really wasn't expecting that question right now. Besides, a year ago, Dad would probably high-fived me and just say, no fat chicks, pointing his fingers in a joking way. But this was different. Jill was feeding him information to make me look bad. Dad, I want to go to my girlfriend's party. I'm starting to feel like home is a jail. Seriously, don't you see that all the problems started when Jill came in? Jake, maybe I thought things were going on well between us, but maybe there are things you are hiding. I know it was hard after Mom left. I was hoping Jill could give us a woman's touch, and no matter what, I'm still your dad. But there is only so much I can do. Dad, she going through all my stuff. I have nothing to do at home. I'm really miserable. Jake, you didn't answer my question about the girl. No, I'm not, Dad. You would like her, she's pretty organized too. Look, no party until your grades are better. But let's talk more. It's never easy with mixed families, but let's try to work things out. Maybe you'll see that Jill is not so bad. Back at school, I had to apologize to Alice. It's really not my fault I am at total lockdown except at school. Jake, if you keep this up, you will have to find someone else to donate you a liver. I'm not going to parties, so my liver is pretty good right now. But seriously, I can't play video games, I can't go online. I can only do homework and chores and nothing else. Look at my backpack, look inside. As I held up the backpack, it was in perfect order. All my notes were in perfect order, no loose papers. It's like the model student's backpack. Jake, I never seen you clean anything that clean. I need your help. There is something seriously wrong with Jill. People just don't act like this. I can't go online, even if I did. She looks through my history and everything. Look, Jake, I'll help you out, but what exactly are you expecting to find? So what if she a type? That's not a crime. You're not there. There's something in her eyes. Speaking of things that shouldn't be there, tell me that you deleted those photos. Back home, I came back to the house. It was complete dark in the fall. With an early sunset, it was dark with no streetlights. It felt like I was walking in a catacomb. I went to my room, just to be alone. I thought to myself, I should have joined the basketball team. I would avoided Jill with all the practices, and just be left alone. After getting a head start on my homework, I hear Jill from downstairs. Hey boy, let's go play some video games. Her voice was different than usual. Instead of the demanding way she usually spoke, it was more of a falsetto, but with an undeniable sinister undertone. Whatever, crazy lady, I am not doing anything with you, I thought. I'm studying, I need to get my homework done. Just then I heard a loud knocking at my window. I jumped with fear, holding my chest. As I turned toward the window, it was Alice. You scared the shit out of me. You should be scared. She showed me a news story on her phone with Jill's picture on it. Newlywed now a widow, the headline said. The article went on to describe the mysterious death of her husband. The police described it as a robbery attempt. The thieves only took jewelry. But there's more. Look at this article from 3 years ago. The article said couple mourns death of son. It went on to talk about how Jill's then stepson went missing and was later found dead. There was a knocking at the door. Jake, I've decided to let you play on your computer. I want us to get along. Come on, go, play your games. That voice was so chilling. I heard people having goosebumps, but this was the first time I ever experienced it. But I could see the pores of my arm freeze tight and all my hair on my arm stand at attention. I have to meet you at your house. Get out of here. I opened the door and there was Jill. Her head was tilted slightly to the left and in her offhand, she held a router. But she didn't hold it conventionally. She held it like it was the entrails of some animal she gutted. I didn't hesitate, I ran past her, but what I didn't see was the knife she held behind her back. She threw it at me, but missed. Come on boy, let's play. I ran to Alice's house. The streets were dark now. It was that moment with daylight savings time when street lights are out of sync with the sunset, so now there was some more time of darkness before there was any artificial lights. At Alice's house I wanted to feel safe. Alice was just as scared as I was. She showed me her phone again. She was getting text messages from Jill under my name. Hey you slut, come back and it'll be better for you. She posted this over and over and over. She knows where I live. Do we call the cops? No, let's go to the basketball court. It was always a safe place for us to go. We ran as fast as we could. Alice was shocked from all the texts she was getting. When we got there, the lights of the court were on, but the court was deserted. We went to the half-court line. Alice looked down at her phone and read the text. Your coordinates are 33.85, minus 118.10. I'll be there soon. Jake, she'll be here soon. What are we going to do? We didn't see any cars in the parking lot. Maybe she didn't know where we were. Who even bothers with coordinates? It could all be made up. Maybe we were out of her reach. Just then we heard the rustling of leaves. Please be a homeless dude, please be a homeless dude, I prayed intently. My prayer was unanswered. I heard something whizzing through the air. As we looked down, Jill jumped through the bushes. Why do you have to ruin everything? She thrusted wildly, missing both us. We jumped opposite of each other and started to run. You can't be a good student. She threw another knife at me, scraping my arm. You see this slut? I know what you two were doing. You ruin everything. As I was nursing my wound, she slowly approached. This is over. Alice and I looked at each other in fear. We were tired and couldn't find a way to get away. But then we didn't need to. Jill fell down with that angry look on her face. You're right. It is over. My dad slugged her in the back of the head. Jake, I'm really sorry, I didn't know how crazy she was. I thought she was stopping you from messing up. Alice came up to my dad and showed him the news articles. She asked, how did you know how to get here? Whenever something is wrong or an emergency, we always meet up here. Too bad I didn't meet you under better circumstances. The police are coming, we have a lot of time to catch up. My dad and I still play basketball and talk, but we added one more person, Alice. She has a decent jump shot, but she is great company. We're headed off for college and things are looking up and up. Dad is seeing someone. He brought it up. I asked, no fat chicks, right? But no matter how good things are now, every once in a while, I get a DM. I know it's from her, because it always says, no more video games. Story 5, The Tall Stalker, a haunting tale of a road trip gone wrong. 500 miles from home, 500 miles from family and friends. Still 500 miles to go. Was it really worth it for a work trip? I made good money, yeah, but why do I specifically need to go to a conference in San Antonio? After I wrapped up that thought, I put out my cigarette and entered the gas station. I grabbed some chips, gum and a coffee. I went up to the counter and got ready to check out. Cashier, hi. Find everything you need? Me, yeah, at least to get me through tonight. She started ringing up my items. Cashier, you from around here? Me, no, I'm from out of town, Iowa, actually. I'm going to San Antonio for a business thing. She handed me my receipt. Cashier, just a word of advice, this town gets a bit abnormal at night. I wouldn't recommend driving until morning. I grabbed my stuff and thanked her for the advice, but I'd be fine. As I exited the gas station, I realized how dark it was outside. I looked at my watch, and it was 10 minutes before 11. As I looked up, I swear I saw a person disappear into the dark of night. I shrugged it off, got in my car, and started my drive. I lit up a cigarette and turned up the radio station I was listening to. I saw it again, that same guy, except I got a weird feeling. He was watching me from the side of the road. I turned onto a long dirt road, and it was supposed to lead me to the freeway. After 10 minutes, I started to get confused. I glanced at my GPS, and it showed my car not moving. I sighed, just what I needed, a damn broken GPS. I turned around, but another 5 minutes went by, and the surroundings never changed. I started to freak out a bit, but after a minute, I managed to calm myself down somewhat. What was weird though was there wasn't anything but forest and road. No wildlife either. There's no way, I got lost on a fucking straight road, I thought. Then it appeared. I saw it first in my rearview mirror, a human-like figure with long lanky arms, large void-like eyes, with no mouth. It somehow stayed with my car, even though it's not moving. Almost like it is teleporting towards me. Its gaze made me look away, but it kept appearing in my head. The radio turned to static, and then I had to turn it off, after the screams started blaring through. The figure, or entity, or whatever was still behind me. I was hoping to come across some kind of civilization, but I still had yet to see anything else but road and the darkness of night. 2 hours went by, and I was starting to get tired. I was afraid to stop, because of that thing behind me. I tried to turn back on the radio again, but that was a mistake. The screaming continued through, and I turned it off again. I started to cry, I was shaking and terrified. I almost swerved off into darkness, and I had to try to somewhat compose myself. I heard breathing in the back seat, and my blood ran ice cold. I looked in my rearview mirror, nothing. I then realized that thing behind me must be fucking with me somehow. I felt it watching me, analyzing even my tiniest movements I made. It's still in my head, I try, but I can't block it out. It's etched into my memory, probably for as long as I live. I still have yet to see civilization. My eyes drew heavy, but I fought to keep them open. I drank the rest of my coffee and kept as much alertness as I could. That thing still trailing me. I decided to give that thing a name from now on. Might as well, since just calling it that thing gets kinda confusing. It will be referred to as the tall stalker from now on. The tall stalker appeared in front of me. It tried to run me off the road, and I damn near did. I don't think it can get me if my car is moving. I thought about driving off-road, but there's too much risk I'd crash. There's a forest on both sides of the road. I've been using voice to text to document my situation. Hopefully, I can find a way out. If not, my last resort is hoping someone somehow finds this and posts it. If that happens, it is too late for me. My watch said 6 a.m., but nothing in my scenery changed. I noticed my car's tank was almost empty. Shit, I thought. I glanced at the tall stalker in the rearview mirror. Even though it had no mouth, I could tell it was happy. I couldn't stop shaking. I should have taken that cashier's advice. Did she know? How could she know? How could anyone? This feels like a nightmare, but I'm awake. I know I am. I heard the breathing in my back seat again. This time I didn't pay attention to it, and I think it got angry. It tried to run me off the road again, this time putting my brother in the middle of the road. I swerved, and nearly spun out. My life flashed before my eyes. I knew I would never see my family or friends again. My town, or anything for that matter. All that has been my life for 7 hours is a road of complete darkness. I started to feel hopeless, and I started to accept everything. As scared as I was, what could I do? The car started to slow down. Then it came to a complete stop, and I looked in my rearview mirror. The tall stalker was getting closer. Almost like it was taking its time, it seemingly confident I wouldn't escape. I'm going to try to make a run for it, maybe I can get out of this hell. I knew that I had to get away. I opened the car door and ran into the forest. I could hear the tall stalker chasing me, but I didn't dare look back. I ran for what seemed like hours, but I never lost the feeling that the tall stalker was right behind me. I was exhausted and terrified, but I knew that I couldn't stop. Finally, I came to a clearing in the forest. I saw a road in the distance, and I ran towards it. I was saved. I looked back, but the tall stalker was gone. I was safe. I walked for hours, but eventually, I was picked up by a police officer. He took me to a hospital, where I was treated for shock. I told him about the tall stalker, but he didn't believe me. He thought I was just delirious from exhaustion. I never saw the tall stalker again, but I will never forget it. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. Story 6, The Mysterious Death in the Forest, a Logger's Terrifying Encounter. We all have our routines. A combination of bad habits and good that we have settled into. It makes life easier, makes life healthier. I firmly believe that a great routine is the best way to succeed in anything. The only problem is, it's tough to give up a routine. I struggle to stop making the same breakfast before work, talking to the same barista at the coffee place, and taking the same path through the forest on my way to the logging camp. I liked that town a lot, even if I'd only known it for a year. It's predictable, it's safe, and when the sun shines, it's beautiful, although that is a rarity. I think I'd take a job outside over a desk job any day, no matter how taxing it is on my body. I will happily become a stronger man for a chance to breathe fresh air and get my blood pumping. I wouldn't say it's healthier though. There have been several accidents on site and a lumberjack did die the year before I arrived. You'd be surprised at the mortality rate in this line of work. It's not as simple as you think to chop down a tree. Well, most of the time it is, but still, safety is a primary concern. Why did I take that job? Like most people who leave the city, I wanted an escape. My personal life got a little too dramatic for me to handle. I started doing things out of character, I just stopped being me. So, instead of hurting people I cared about, I thought a little isolation and reflection was in order. We're better to do that than in the countryside. I settled in well enough. The guys were pretty quiet, but we just got on with the work. There's always a lot to do, and not much time to do it. Another point to make about this line of work is that nowadays speed and efficiency are necessary factors for staying out of the red. Competition is fierce, some certainly have better machines too. The company I work for keeps their costs cheap by making use of cheap labor over expensive machines and pushing that labor as far as the dollar will make them. I think the motto of the higher-ups is that no job is too big if you throw enough bodies at it. Looking at the results, I am inclined to agree. I accepted the bad salary and tough conditions because I didn't need to. I have money, it's how I paid for the place I stayed at. Passive income goes a long way. I just wanted a career change and I thought I would live a small boyhood dream during my escape. As I said, I always took the same path going to work. It wasn't so far that I needed to take the truck, so I liked to walk through the field, the forest, and along the river, until I reached the logging camp. The whole journey took almost an hour, so I would leave pretty early. It's usually light enough for a walk, but during the winter months, it was dark as a coal mine, not to mention cold. One morning, I pulled on my backpack with a groan and was still rubbing the sleeping dust out of my eyes as I locked the door behind me. Sleeping in is easy on cold mornings, especially if your body knows what it is going to endure all day. Crossing through the field, I listened to the crows, spotting their dark bodies against the gray sky on the dead tree branches. Even during summer, they were around but weren't so vocal. I didn't mind them though. I think I'm one of the few people around who thinks they are pretty cool. Next to vultures, they are the most metal birds around. At the end of the field, I kicked some of the tall grass to watch the morning dew scatter, then took a left into the forest. There was a narrow path that opened up about 10 minutes ahead. I liked that wider path the most, as the foliage thinned out and all I saw were tree trunks until I reached the river. It was shaping up to be another peaceful walk. I could hear the gurgling of the river ahead of me. The natural silence was then broken by a heavy smack of something hitting the water, then a churning sound of water being splashed. I hesitated for a moment before picking up the pace to see what it was. I saw the white water being kicked up, but not what was in the water. Not until it stopped thrashing around. A deer, young antlers sprouting out of its head, with wide glass-like eyes. It floated with the current kicking out, but less and less as the blood dribbled from its wounds. I couldn't see it clearly enough to measure the extent of the damage, but I could see its neck muscles, I saw shredded skin along its side. It was mutilated, but it didn't look like it had been naturally mauled by a bear or wolf or anything. I had seen plenty of dead wildlife throughout the year, but nothing like that. Most importantly, I didn't see the thing that caused it. It would surely be looking for its prey. If it was fast enough to catch a deer, it sure as hell wouldn't lose it if it tried to escape. Not with those injuries. As I looked around, I became a lot more agitated. Fear produced wolves, a bear even, in my imagination. Yet, I was just annoyed that I didn't see them. The thrashing had stopped. I heard a soft hollow sound of the deer's antlers hitting a few rocks sticking out the water. Reaching the logging camp, my mind was still fixated on what I had seen. The sound of the machinery, of axes hitting logs, snapped me out of it. I wasn't an animal expert, I was a man hired to cut timber and firewood. Mostly firewood, in my case. So, I sank my teeth into some work. Starting slow to warm up before getting into the swing of things. The sounds of a log being split never get old. When we take breaks at the camp, it's mostly informal. We all had work to do, and as long as we got it done, we could stop for a breather or to eat whenever we wanted. I ended up being stopped by a guy named Isaac. We'd been having our breaks usually around the same time as each other, so we often ended up eating together. Isaac was the closest friend I had there, really. We were mostly quiet, even eating was a chore at times, but when we did talk, it was about TV. There was no doubt in my mind that Isaac had more interesting things going on in his life than what he saw on TV, but he just found TV a lot more worth his time. Bees are dying, he said. Are they now? I replied. Yeep. Won't be any bees in a few years. How many years? Can't right well remember, but can you remember the last time you saw a bee? I think I saw a few in spring. Probably dead now. Probably, I hummed. I wanted to change the conversation and only one thing came to mind. Do you know what else is dead? I went on to tell him what I saw on the walkover. I think he was half listening. Dead deer weren't anything out of the ordinary. What caught his attention was the fact I didn't see anything. Wolf isn't going to let it get away, Isaac said simply, an open and shut case as far as he was concerned. If it got away, it will find it later. It knows when its prey is wounded. It will wash up and the wolf will take care of it. You think it was a wolf? What else? Wolves are the only things around here that can catch deer. Right, it was a lot of damage though. What about a bear? No bears here. What do you mean no bears? Seriously? I thought. No bears. I didn't want to argue with someone who knew more than me, no matter how much I struggled to believe what they were saying. I considered myself lucky I didn't run into them. I'm not really scared of wolves, I'm usually carrying and even have a flare on the side of my backpack. Wolves can be pretty skittish when you know how to act, not to mention shoot. I felt comfortable enough to walk back, so I did and got home without incident. I didn't see the deer. That evening I settled in to watch one of the channels that Isaac enjoyed, a DIY channel. It's amazing how quickly you can lose yourself in watching someone assemble a linen chest. I also had enough of nature for the day, so watching an animal documentary wasn't in the cards. The pains in my left arm were setting in, but they would be gone by the morning. Good OL routine. Before I went to bed, I got a call from my wife, Laura. She usually called during the day, but reception sucked in the logging camp so I never got them. I also suck, because I never bothered to check my call log, and sometimes when I do I don't bother calling them back. I guess even far away I hurt people. What is it? I asked with a little too much attitude. Christ, I just wanted to hear your voice, she snapped. It's been 3 days. It was a good point. I didn't have a comeback, so I ended up saying nothing. I say I want to hear your voice and you go quiet on me, Laura murmured. How are you? Can you tell me that? I'm fine, I'm alright. Okay. More silence. My mouth was hanging open, but my throat felt like it was closed off. Nothing could escape, not even a small squeak. I was scowling at my knees, sawdust and wood fragments still clung to them. I miss the hell out of you, you know that? Lara said. I even miss massaging your shoulders after work. I let out a small exhale of a laugh. I bet your shoulders are like stone now, Lara said. I could hear the smile in her voice. Say something, you stupid bastard. She giggled as she said it and I gave a low laugh. I was smiling, I couldn't help myself. I hated what I was putting her through, but I wasn't right around her either. I liked her company, but I just felt like I didn't belong there. I guess a year of reflection gets you nowhere. I decided to try, whether I felt like it or not. Yeah, whole body is aching actually, I told her. I bet. Pretty weird day too. Tell me about it, I'm listening. The next day I walked with some pep in my step. I don't even remember the field or the crows. I just slipped into the forest, thoughts buzzing in my head, replaying my talk with Lara. The clouds were a little darker, the fog a little thicker, but I could see the trees and the mountains. It was good enough for me. The path opened up. I must have walked through a cold snap or something, I felt all the warmth vanish. It could have been a bad wind maybe, or maybe I just didn't notice. The more I think about it, the less I believe any of those reasons. Soon after I felt that cold, I heard the familiar creaking of wood being pulled, splintering, crashing. A tree ahead of me fell across the path. The branches snapped into a pile of twigs, the bark peeled apart. It was an old tree, but not so old that it would fall for no reason. As I got closer, I saw that the tree had been cut just above head height, which is far too high, and the cut was clean, but not straight. There was a slight curve to it, which again, was not normal. Not sure what to do about it, I approached the end of the tree and grabbed beneath it. Lifting with my legs, I was able to crab walk with it to get it off the path. The physical exertion that took without a real warm-up was great, and looking back on it, it was a dumb thing to do. I could have injured my back, even as young as I am. As I put the tree down, another chill ran through me. It was like a split-second dip in an ice bath. I grabbed my arms and huddled, breathing out with a sudden exhale. As I did, the branches ahead of me on the tree began to come apart, as if severed by a perfectly sharpened blade. I didn't see anything cut them, but I saw how those cuts appeared and gravity did the rest, trimming strong branches like it was a hedge. My warmth came back just as quickly, but my heart remained cold. I became painfully aware of my surroundings, feeling that same feeling one feels when someone is looking over one's shoulder. I looked all around, taking light steps up the path. What was so nerve-wracking was that I couldn't see anything. I mentioned that the foliage thinned out in the open area, it was just the ground and the trees. I should have been able to see something, but I didn't. I was mouth-breathing, my heart pounding in my ears, all the way to the river. I was afraid, but I had no idea what I had to be afraid of. I felt threatened, but what could hurt me? What could have done that to the trees and made me feel so cold before doing it? The sound of the river filled my ears. I didn't hear any splashing, but it was loud enough all the same. Another cold chill reached, I feared the worst, then fell backward, landing in the water. Holy shit! I stammered, for a moment, thinking I had been pulled in. Thinking on it further, I simply backed into a stiff rock and tripped over it. Fuck, what the fuck? Drenched from head to toe, I still felt warmer than I did a second before. I looked out into the forest, for some reason feeling safer than I did on dry land. That feeling of being followed, of being closely watched, persisted. I walked slowly up the river, keeping my feet in the water. It was a few feet from the shore, and it might have seemed stupid, but I genuinely felt like I wouldn't be hurt staying in the water. That anxiety lessened the closer I got to the logging camp, to the point where I felt I could step out of the water and be okay. I sensed the threat within the forest, even if I didn't see it. It took me a while before I felt confident enough to turn my back on it, looking towards the machines and the main tent. That kind of tension was exhausting. While my mind tried to comprehend the experience, I approached the main tent, considering taking a nap or something before starting work. It was only when I was a foot away that I stopped and noticed how quiet the camp was. I didn't hear or see anyone. The machines were empty, I didn't hear a single axe hitting wood, nothing. When I turned back to the tent, I noticed the wall part as a snout peeked through. Not a snout of something knee or waist high, it was my height. Ragged fur, gleaming teeth, and piercing eyes. My hand dropped to my side, I felt my fingers wrap around the handle of my gun. When I raised it, the entire tent parted as hands jumped towards me. Whoa, 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 someone shouted. Haha, it's all good. All my coworkers emptied out of the tent, the head of the wolf-like monster hovering there for a moment. Eventually, Hans pulled the mask off and a terrified Isaac looked at me. He eventually smiled, but I think his life flashed before his eyes first. There was laughter all around, but it took a while for the joke to hit me. I doubled over, trying to catch my breath and calm my heart. It was going like a jackhammer. I'm not a bad guy when it comes to pranks, but I was terrified and they could see that. I was asked all sorts of questions, from what took me so long to get to work and why I was soaked. These were questions I knew the answer to, but then Isaac eyed my cheek. Where did you score the cut? He asked. You're bleeding like a stuck pig. Touching the left side of my face rewarded me with bloody fingertips. I had cut not just along my cheek, but across my ear as well. I didn't notice, because my face was getting cold, but after drying off, the cut was stinging the whole day, especially around the ear. While I dealt with that, Isaac told me how he mentioned my encounter with the dead deer to the other guys, and one thought up the prank, seeing as he had a werewolf mask. The only time he ever gets to use it is for Halloween, so he didn't want to miss out on the opportunity, you know? Isaac explained. I figured I should wear it though, just in case you wanted to punch someone, it might as well be me. Didn't know you had a concealed carry though. The prank was enough for the others to feel satisfied and get on with their day. I didn't mind, I barely cared, all I wanted from him was a lift back to my place, because I didn't want to walk back. I was so eager to get home that when work ended, I waited right by the river section, closest to his truck, just to be safe. By the time I walked into my place, I had made a decision. Anything can happen to you, and you don't know when. If you don't appreciate what you have, you could lose it. I didn't want to die with my relationship with Laura on the rocks. Isolating myself, feeding into my insecurities, neglecting her, all I would become is a bad memory, and if anything came after, I would feel nothing but regret. I'm home now. We're better now, I'm better now. I'm trying, day by day. Yet, whenever I'm alone, someplace secluded, I feel it. My knees buckle, ready to duck or to run. It could be here, it cut me, it saw me bleed. Maybe it had my scent. I don't know, but there are times when I'm just scared. I can't stop looking over my shoulder for the thing that followed me. Story 7, Marked by Shadow, a true story of possession and the struggle to break free. My childhood was marked by an unsettling feeling of being watched, a constant sensation of unseen eyes following me wherever I went. This unnerving experience began when I started walking home from elementary school alone. At first, I dismissed it as mere imagination, attributing it to the presence of other children along the same route. I convinced myself that perhaps someone had a crush on me, or that girls were gossiping about me. Upon returning home, I would often find it empty, my parents still at work. I would make myself a quick meal from leftovers, grab my iPad, and immerse myself in the digital world to escape the lingering sense of unease that pervaded my surroundings. The unsettling feeling intensified when I started hearing footsteps outside my apartment door and feeling the walls shake from other doors being closed. I attributed these noises to the rundown apartment building across the street, its balconies overflowing with unused storage items, its facade covered in mold and overgrown vines. The sight of this dilapidated structure sent shivers down my spine. Footsteps echoing near my parents' closet became a frequent occurrence, sending chills down my spine. Fear kept me from investigating, my mind conjuring up terrifying scenarios. My father, a devout religious man, firmly believed in God's existence, while my mother held a more intuitive understanding of a higher power. One night, I went to bed later than usual, tucked in by my mother. At around 3:30 a.m., I awoke to use the restroom. As I turned on the lights, a shadowy figure caught my eye in the mirror, but it vanished when I looked directly at it. I dismissed it as my eyes adjusting to the sudden brightness. Returning to my room, I turned off the lights, plunging my surroundings into darkness. Once again, the shadowy figure appeared, this time standing next to my bed, only to disappear in an instant. The following morning, I recounted the incident to my mother, but she dismissed it as a product of my imagination. However, the shadowy figures continued to haunt me, appearing in the corners of my vision, some kneeling and reaching for me, others hovering inches away. This torment persisted for months. Desperate for answers, I turned to my religious father, hoping his faith would provide some solace. He listened intently and arranged for a priest to visit our home. After the priest's intervention, the shadowy figures ceased their nightly visits, providing a sense of relief that I hadn't experienced in months. Or so I thought. The respite was short-lived. I began waking up with inexplicable cuts and bruises on my arms and legs, accompanied by blurry memories of disturbing dreams. This torment continued for years, an unseen presence that never truly left me. Years later, I found myself on vacation, far from the protective rituals of the priest. Without his intervention, I felt exposed and vulnerable, an easy target for the unseen entities that had haunted me for so long. My grandmother's house, situated near a cemetery, became a breeding ground for these entities. Black, misshapen bugs crawled over my body, and the shadowy figures grew more grotesque, their inhuman forms morphing into terrifying apparitions. Their voices echoed in my mind, taunting me, calling me to join them. Upon returning home, it was as if the entities had followed me. My friends and even my partner dismissed my accounts as signs of schizophrenia or attention-seeking behavior. The entity's relentless pursuit culminated in a moment of surrender. Exhausted from the constant pain and torment, I allowed them to possess me. As the pain subsided, I was met with a horrifying realization: I had been the source of my own suffering. My hands, stained with blood, clutched a blade. I looked in the mirror, my reflection revealing a decaying corpse, surrounded by the shadowy figures and grotesque bugs that had haunted me for years. "You're finally home," the first figure I had encountered uttered, its voice chilling to the bone. Story 8, The Endless Feast, a Thanksgiving nightmare that never ends. Mom wanted us to say what we're thankful for in that half-joking, half-serious kind of way. She's traditional like that. You can't just have a meal, right? You need the meaning behind it, or at least, the meaning we're giving to it. Dad answered first, grunting something about family and good food as he slapped a large slice of ham onto my plate and gave me the return nod. "I don't eat meat." A statement that won't win you any popularity at our Thanksgiving dinners, believe me. Dad answered with a sizable scoop of dressing accompanied by no small amount of turkey, of course, and the usual stance about how we don't got the money to be picky. Dad's not a mean or hateful guy. It's not like that. He's just a little stuck in his past, same as most people, and doesn't always see the view from my end. He tried to understand at first. Even took me out to his garden. "Gotta be something here you'll eat." We weren't the only ones with eyes on those vegetables though. There was a rabbit, a cute, fluffy little thing, sneaking his way up from behind the trees, no doubt hoping for a nice meal of his own. He made his way all the way to the edge of Dad's garden, and I held as still as I could, because I always liked rabbits, and I thought I could get a good picture if he got close enough. Dad shot him through the head with a .22 rifle. I looked down at the poor, dead rabbit, and the head of cabbage that had been stained by a splatter of his blood. Dad said that'll wash out and gave me a pat on the back, before carrying off the corpse to be skinned. We had rabbit and cabbage that night. I wasn't hungry. "Tried to do it your way," Dad said, and I knew right then he wouldn't try to accommodate any further. So, Dad and I see things differently. Now, my grandpa, there's a man who can hate. He's had a lifetime of practice. And Grandpa hates vegans. Vegetarians too, but he hates vegans most of all. Grandpa used to own a farm the next state over, before he left it to my uncle and moved in with us. Way he sees it, a stance against meat, or much of anything else that comes from an animal, is a stance against him, personally. An attack on the way of life he's always known, the life our family depends on for its very existence. When Grandpa heard me say I didn't eat meat, same as every other time he's heard me say it, he looked at me with disgust. If that man could lose his appetite, he probably would have. Mom's clever. Whatever she might hate, she does it quietly and subtly. Guilt is her weapon of choice. "I went through all the trouble of making this meal, and you're not even going to try it." "Well, if that's what you want." Anyway, I played along. It seemed like the best way to avoid any conflict. I said I'm thankful for my family, and for the meal they provided, which is much more than some people get, even if still not quite enough for us to be picky. And on with the meal. One thing about my family these people can eat. You wouldn't believe it. I'm talking mouthfuls of ham, its juices constantly running down their chins. The chicken and the turkey, gravy and dressing and deviled eggs. Forks and knives move with a velocity that could surely kill if everything in their path wasn't already so very dead. Thanksgiving makes for such a variety of dead things. It was Mom who finally found a second between bites, pointing her fork directly at my face, to sneak in, "You've got to try the ham." She looked so happy, tearing into that ham. Must be one heck of a pig, I thought. Dad and Grandpa were quick to confirm, doing their best to spit out compliments through whatever they were stuffing in their mouths next. I don't want any ham, I said. The turkey, you need some of this turkey, it's delicious. These deviled eggs, I'm telling you, just try one. Ham. Amazing. Best ham. The more they ate, the happier they got, the more welcoming they became. It was so much worse than usual. Disturbing, even. It's like they couldn't control themselves. Grandpa's head fell forward and slammed against his plate with surprising force. Chunks of half-chewed food flew a couple feet in each direction, but Mom and Dad didn't seem to mind. They didn't even look at him. Too focused on their food. You need to eat this, they kept saying, almost talking to themselves at that point. Grandpa kept his head down for a while, licking gravy and juices off his plate like a dog, before sitting up straight with a chunk of turkey hanging from his mouth and a big smile on his face like nothing had even happened. I didn't eat a bite. Lost my appetite, I guess. Left the table altogether after a while. It's not like anyone noticed. I could hear them in there all day, even into the night. I went to check on them the next morning, thinking the food must be gone by now. It wasn't. They weren't really eating the meal at all anymore, at least, not anything that hadn't already been in their mouths. I saw Dad take a drink of gravy straight from the bowl, just to open his mouth, let it drip back out, and go for it again right after. Grandpa had clearly vomited on his plate, and made use of the resulting mess as another helping. Mom stabbed away at a turkey bone that had nothing else to give, occasionally spitting on the broken pieces and eating them too. When I tried to speak, their eyes all shot at me in unison, seemingly independent of their other movements. It felt wrong. Like I was prey, almost. I felt like the rabbit. Then they went right back to that same old act. Gotta try this ham. The turkey. Eat the turkey. A year ago we gathered around the table for a Thanksgiving dinner. Now, 1 year later, the night before Thanksgiving, it still hasn't stopped. I tried to help at first. I brought them water, even poured it into their mouths myself. Tried offering them other foods, medicine, anything else I could think of. I even tried dragging them away from the table. They wouldn't budge. It's like the whole thing, the table and the chairs and the food, the meal, was part of them now, or they were part of it. Eat the ham. The turkey, try this turkey. Even as their bodies gave in, they just kept going. In a few months' time, our electricity and water had been shut off. We'd stocked up on bottled water, thank God, but the whole thing didn't seem to bother anyone else here. Their teeth would fall and their hair would follow. Nothing made a difference. Thanksgiving keeps going. Straight through the new year, past winter and into spring. Everyone around the table. Have to eat this ham. More than 6 months in, I couldn't keep it apart anymore, the way they melted into the table. I didn't know where they stopped and the old food began. It was all the same to me. Just a mess. A really big mess. This turkey is delicious. They'd scream it, skinless, their jaws hanging on by a thread, while I tried to put their pieces back together. As the year went on, mistakes were made. I'm not perfect. It's so hard to keep it all separate. Mom might have turkey parts now. I don't know. I did my best. The bread molded a long time ago. Dad's garden is dead now, not even a curiosity for little critters to happen upon. Not that I know how to use a gun anyway. Not that I even would. I'm just hungry. The canned goods, the peanut butter and all the rest, it's all gone now. God help me, the more I hear them yelling from around that table about the ham and the turkey, it almost starts to sound tempting. I don't know how this happened. I certainly don't why this happened. Did we not pray before sitting down to eat last year? We usually do. Maybe we didn't. Should I have just eaten the food? Can't be. I'd be in the same spot they are, wouldn't I? Around the table with everyone else. Was I not thankful enough? They've been getting louder. That's something I do know. Every day, for the last month or so at least, their voices get a little bit louder. I hear them everywhere now. The turkey. Please just eat the turkey. You have to try the ham. It's building to something. Tomorrow is my guess, Thanksgiving Day. That's when this needs to come to some kind of ending. I don't know what's going to happen. And for the love of God, I still don't want any ham.